Hello everyone. This is Architect Rupali Borade from Dr. D.Y. Patil College of Architecture, Akurdi, Pune. Today I am going to present a video on the topic Life Cycle Assessment and Carbon Footprint Calculation as a part of Week 4 video submission for International FDP on Environment and Sustainability, organized by Dr. D.Y. Patil College of Engineering, Akurdi. So let's start with the summary of my Week 1 and Week 2 videos. In my Week 1 video, I had covered life cycle assessment and its application in sustainability, understanding the process of life cycle assessment and application of its result for material production process enhancement. I had also covered the example of life cycle assessment of an aluminium can, wherein we could see the processes involved right from the raw material procurement to manufacturing, transportation, the customer use, and then the end of life processes, wherein we could see how to make the lesser impact on the sustainable environment by improving these processes through life cycle assessment. In my Week 2 video, I had presented the study of ISO 14044-2006, which is associated with environmental management standards of recycling process. ISO 14044-2006 specifies the process of life cycle assessment of any material or a product. In this particular video, I had covered the process of life cycle assessment and the various stages which are to be taken into consideration for life cycle assessment of a material, and the impact of the product and how we can lessen the impact of the product on the use of resources as well as on sustainability. Now from both the videos of Week 1 and Week 2, what the students will learn as learning outcomes. So the video outcomes were as follows. After learning through videos, students will appraise the importance of following life cycle assessment technique, developed a skill set on understanding the environmental impact of material or a product, value the sustainability concept in their life, review the material to be used for lesser environmental impact, formulate process for EIA, that is environmental impact assessment, referring to the ISO standards conveyed in the videos, organize their material selection for their projects in line with lesser environmental damage, evaluate the process of material manufacture process from cradle to grave and sustainability in the process. For this particular videos, the Week 1 and Week 2 videos, I had covered different ISO standards. So for Week 1 video, I had covered ISO 14044-2006, which actually specifies the requirement and provides guidelines for life cycle assessment, including definition and goal and scope of LCA, the life cycle inventory analysis phase, the life cycle impact assessment phase, the life cycle interpretation phase, reporting and official review of LCA, limitation of LCA, relationship between LCA phases, and conditions for use of value choices and optional elements. The application of this ISO standard in my videos were study and presentation of the ISO standard, understanding the concept of cradle to grave, study of process of life cycle assessment and its importance in sustainability, and the example of a aluminium can life cycle assessment. The Week 2 video covered ISO 14064-2006. ISO 14064 standard supports organizations to participate in both regulated and voluntary programs such as emission trading schemes and public reporting using a globally recognized standard. For my Week 4 video, I have covered ISO 14067-2018, which is for the greenhouse gases, carbon footprint of the product, requirement and guidelines for quantification. Here, by quantification, they mean the quantification of greenhouse gases emissions, in which CO2 in particular is considered as the major greenhouse gas emission, and thus by checking the CO2 emission, we find out the carbon footprint of any product or any process. The document is application to CFP studies, that is carbon footprint studies, the results of which provide the basis for different applications. Now let's see what is product carbon footprint and life cycle assessment. A carbon footprint and life cycle assessment is used to systematically record and analyze the impact on the environment throughout the entire life cycle of a product or services. This involves an end-to-end analysis of the product or services. The analysis considers all raw materials, transports, production processes, usage and disposal of the product. This was the same process covered in the life cycle assessment of an aluminum can in my week 1 video. A carbon footprint at product level is special application of the LCA methodology that specifically focuses on greenhouse gas emissions. Here in particular for carbon emissions we consider CO2 emissions by the usage of any kind of product or a material. Now let's see what is the difference between life cycle assessment and carbon footprint. The difference between a life cycle and a carbon footprint are related to the impact categories which are studied. A carbon footprint is focused on one environmental impact category, that is greenhouse gas emissions, in this case CO2 gas. Meanwhile, an LCA takes more impact categories into account such as land use, water use and acidification. Because we use many resources in manufacture of any product, like we use land, we use water, we use various utilities and resources. So LCA covers all of the factors involved in the manufacture and transportation and usage, and then in the last, the disposal of the product. That's why carbon footprint can be one of the aspects of life cycle assessment to analyze what a particular product is emitting during its usage. In line with the video 1 that I had presented life cycle assessment of a recycling of a aluminum can. I'm going with the carbon footprint calculation of packaging materials. I'm considering packaging materials as my study area. Packaging is obviously required to protect virtually all products in transit and storage until they reach the consumers. Now, packaging is of utmost importance because without good packaging, the customer won't buy the product. Packaging is required to safeguard the safety and security of the project, to maintain its hygiene, to increase its shelf life. The packaging is very important. That's why I have covered this topic over here. But most of us have routinely experienced over-packaged products, and inefficient use of packaging material is an area that is ripe for optimization. Whenever we buy things online, we see that it gets wrapped into multiple plastic bubble covers, bubble wraps, and then it will have 1 or 2 boxes, cartons in which it is placed. So we see overusage of packaging material, which can be a study area wherein we can reduce the material used and thus reduce the impact that it's caused on the environment. Now here we see 4 packaging materials. Here I am covering the topic packaging of a beverage. So you can see a picture which covers 4 packaging materials for beverages. One is a paper packaging material, that is a Tetra Pak, aluminum can, a glass bottle and a plastic bottle. The choice of materials for bottled beverages in terms of environmental impact is complicated. Factors include material, manufacturing, weight, transportation, recycling, reusability and end of the disposal. Now to elaborate on these points, first we'll see materials. So you have to choose the packaging material depending on what beverage you want to actually pack into it. The material that you're going to pack shouldn't react with the packaging material. So the material is to be considered. Even the life of the material has to be considered. Then the manufacturing process of the material. Definitely these 4 packaging materials require different manufacturing process. The weight of this 4 products is different. A glass bottle is much heavier than an aluminum can or a plastic bottle. As the weight increases, the transportation cost also increases. Recycling. The recycling methods for these 4 materials is different. Reusability. These 4 materials can't be directly reused after its primary use. And end of the life disposal. That is, there can be different strategies that can be applied for disposal. Like for aluminum cans, recycling is the most appropriate strategy, wherein Even glass bottles can be recycled. Plastic can't be recycled again and again because the food grade quality of the plastic decreases with increased recyclability. So we have to consider all these factors in deciding the packaging material for a beverage. Now here this table summarizes the different estimates of the carbon footprint of each material. Now here we see that the aluminum can is having the most or the highest carbon footprint level, that is 1604 grams for 4 cans of 355 milliliters. But even the glass bottle has 503 grams for single use glass bottle, wherein after that the glass bottle can be recycled. But even if we recycle the aluminum cans, this carbon footprint can be actually decreased. Now here we see the recyclability of packaging material. If aluminum cans are made of 100% recycled material, the carbon footprint will be 96% less and thus similar to refilled glass bottles or carton. However, as only 45% of cans are recovered, the real carbon footprint is much higher. Also, a 500 ml glass bottle weighs about 400 grams, but a comparable 500 ml PET bottle, carton or aluminum weighs about 10 grams. So as we had discussed earlier, the weight of the material also contributes to the use of the material. So if you are using glass bottles, you have to consider the weight of the product. After packaging, what it is going to be, it is going to increase the transportation cost as well as it is going to increase your recycling cost. Now here we see what are the strategies that can be applied so that we reduce the carbon footprint in usage of the packaging material of the beverage. So first thing can be, don't use a container at all. Use a tap water. Don't buy packaged water. You can drink tap water, you can drink homemade juice or whatever you can pour in a glass or a carafe. So mostly we can use products which are reusable, washable, and we can use again and again. Refillable glass bottles or plastic bottles were available, and carton package in countries with good recycling systems. Now, carton package is a 7-layer package which has multiple layers of paper, plastic, and metal. So you have to have a good recycling facility wherever you're going to use carton packaging. Recycled aluminum cans can be used depending on the country because different countries will have different percentage of recycling. So if maximum the recycling, lesser will be the carbon footprint. Recycled or non-recycled single-use PET. So PET are the PET bottles that are plastic bottles. So you can use either recycled or non-recycled plastic bottles. Now this also depends on how much percentage of used bottles you're going to recycle. Also, as I discussed earlier, the recyclability of plastic bottles goes on decreasing with multiple recycles because the food grade quality of plastic will get decreased. So instead of packaging a beverage, that plastic will have to be used for some other use. Or single-use glass bottles can be used, which can be again sent to a glass manufacturing factory because glass can be recycled again and again. Now in the table, we'll come back to the table. In the table you can see the time to decompose. A glass bottle takes 1 million years to decompose, but it has a very minimal impact on nature or animals. Single-use plastic takes about 400 years to decompose, and it has very high impact on nature and animals because the decomposition residue are microplastics. Now these microplastics can go into smaller insects and smaller animals. They can consume it through air, water, or the food that they are consuming, and it can come back to us again because we again are going to consume fishes or hens or different animals as our food. Now milk cartons, they never decompose. So they have a medium impact on nature and animals depending on the recycling facility you have. Aluminum cans take 100 to 400 years for decomposition. They have low impact on nature and animals because they don't directly react with nature because aluminum is a non-reactive metal. The decomposition residue is metal scrap, but considering the longer duration of time for decomposition, the better option is recycling of aluminum cans. So the maximum the percentage of recycling of aluminum cans, the more you are helping environmental sustainability. Now here we see the activities that emit the most CO2 per year based on US averages. Now here we are considering United States averages. So mostly we emit mostly the CO2 by driving a car. Now mostly the standards in US or in India are same. So driving a car releases most CO2, and the least is by reading a newspaper. And in between we can see eating meat, that is a non-vegetarian diet, flying in a plane, using a refrigerator, running an air conditioner, turning on the lights, having a beer or a beverage, using the dishwasher, running the dryer, drinking coffee. So now we see these are all everyday processes that we are doing in which we are emitting CO2 by our actions. So we can understand that by reducing down on these actions, we can actually reduce down the emission of CO2. So whenever if we want to decrease our carbon footprint in this environment, all these activities we have to lessen down on these activities, like driving a car. Instead of driving a car to nearby places, you can walk, or you can use a cycle, or you can use an electric car or something like that. Using a refrigerator, you can use energy efficient refrigerator. Running an air conditioner, instead of running an air conditioner, you can have natural ventilation in your houses, so that you reduce down the use of electric fan or air conditioners. So these are the various strategies that can be applied in everyday life to lessen the emission of CO2. Now here we see different carbon emissions by different fuels, different food habits. So here are roughly the calculations that are given on the internet. That we emit a near about 2,640 grams of CO2 per liter of diesel consumed, 2,392 grams of CO2 per liter of petrol consumed, and 3,027 grams of CO2 per kg of LPG consumed. So these are the common fuels that we use every day for our vehicles and for cooking purposes. Even food habits, the non-vegetarian diet is more carbon emissive than a vegetarian diet. Air conditioning, total carbon produced by using 1.5 ton AC 8 hours a day is 5,728 grams, which is 5.7 kg per day. Therefore, per annum it will be 1,360 kg if the air conditioner works for 20 days per month as an average. So these are very alarming figures. So you can see what the use of air conditioner is doing. Now, air conditioning being a basic equipment that we used every day, just imagine how much CO2 is being emitted in the atmosphere by all of our activities. Now in this next slide, I have used a carbon emission and carbon footprint calculator provided by Tata Power website. So here we can calculate carbon footprint of an individual house. Like here in this case, I have calculated for the month of January 2020 for a family of 4 people. So considering 4 people in house, we can input the data of what is our consumption for that month for petrol, diesel, then LPG gas, then how much electricity you have consumed in that month. What are your different food habits, or how much electricity you've been using, or how many cylinders you have been using for cooking purposes. So inputting all these values, it gives you your total emission per month, that is kg CO2 per month. So in this case, inputting my values, I got 123.84 kgs of CO2 per month, and my annual carbon footprint tons of CO2 is 1.49. So this is what emission we are doing by our daily activities. This calculator is available on www.tatapower.com. Even you can check your carbon footprint by putting in values of the resources that you have been using in your daily life. Now let's see the concept of emission factor. What is an emission factor? Because to find out carbon emission of various activities, we need to know the emission factor. So emission factors are average statistical coefficients obtained by processing data from compatible devices and experimental methods used to measure the pollutant from one and the same kind of polluting activity. Now, this definition is a bit difficult to understand. So, roughly, we can say that when you're doing a particular activity or whatever resource you're using, whether it is fuel or whether it is food that you're using, uh, different countries might have different emission factors. In India, we might have different emission factors. In US, they might be having different emission factors because utilization of that particular resource will be different in different countries. The emission factor is a representative value that attempts to relate the quantity of pollutant released to the atmosphere with an activity associated with the release of that pollutant. Like if you are considering CO2 gas as a pollutant, so there will be different activities associated with the emission of CO2 gas. So collectively we have to consider all the activities which are emitting CO2 into atmosphere. So from the statistical values, we are going to find out an emission factor which can be applied to a particular activity to find out CO2 emission. These factors are usually expressed as the weight of pollutant divided by a unit weight, volume, distance, or duration of the activity emitting the pollutant. Now, after this, we are going to see what are the different activities or different foods that we are consuming, how it affects, or what is the actually calculation factor that we can associate it with the carbon footprint emission. Now, here you can see transport, food. There are different things in the transport also: vehicle, bus, metro, taxi, rail, whatever mode of transportation you are using, it will have a different emission factor which you can find out. For different countries, the emission factor will be different. So we have to find out that particular emission factor for a particular country and then multiply it with whatever the variables given in the formula. For food also, you can consider non-vegetarian items, vegetarian items, dairy, cereals, vegetables, fruits, oils, snacks and drinks. So for everything that you're doing, every transport facility, every food that you're consuming, there is carbon emission associated with it. The different products that you use in your daily life, like the electrical products, household products, the clothes that you use, medicines that you use, the recreational facilities, or other products that you're using, everything will have a carbon emission factor and everything is going to emit carbon. Services, the health services, finances, recreation, education, vehicles, communication, these all are going to have a carbon footprint associated with them. So in order to lessen the carbon footprint, we have to have a sustainable life and see that whatever vehicles or whatever the food items that we're using or whatever the products we are using or the services we are taking in consideration, those have to be in line with sustainability, and we have to make attempts at reducing this carbon footprint. Now, hereby after this, I am covering simple ways in which we can reduce our carbon footprint. So first is transportation. So for transportation, to reduce the carbon footprint, we can try one of the following ways to go to work or school, like cycling, walking, carpooling, or using a public transport, so that the carbon footprint emitted by one person sitting in one individual person sitting in one car, when he is carpooling with three other people, the same carbon footprint will get divided into four people. So he is reducing the carbon footprint. So that can be done. Try to avoid short car journeys because fuel consumption and CO2 emissions are disproportionately higher when the engine is cold. Don't speed. Speeding uses most petrol and emits more CO2. Travel by train where you can, because train is a mass transport system which will involve large number of people traveling together, so the carbon footprint gets divided into multiple people. Explore alternatives to flying. Instead of flying long distances, if you can avoid the travels, try it the most, or maybe find some other solutions for it. Support programs that strengthen public transport systems. So use of public transport is the major aspect in transport sector where we can reduce the carbon footprint. Now next item is the food. Reduce intake of animal products in developed countries. Now, non-vegetarian items add up more to the carbon footprint of an person. So follow vegetarian diet. Try not to waste food, whatever you are cooking or buying. See that you use most of the food and don't waste it. Eat local and seasonal produce. Local products have less transportation associated with them because they come from short distances, they come from around you, so they have lesser carbon footprint associated with them. Recycle organic waste. Instead of dumping everything into a single dustbin, we can have segregated waste collection, and organic waste can be collected differently and it can be recycled and made into a compost or a manure, and the load on landfills can be reduced by recycling them or composting them. The next aspect is energy use. Turn down the heating. Now in our conditions it will be turned down the cooling, because whenever you don't need air conditioning, you can just switch off the air conditioners and open out your doors and windows so that there is natural ventilation in your house, and reduce the energy use associated with air conditioning. Program your thermostat so that at night or while you're out of the house you minimize your heating or cooling use. Use energy saving light bulbs. So as an initiative already we have started using CFLs and LEDs instead of T4 lamps and incandescent lamps. Defrost old fridges and freezers regularly. Unplug your mobile telephone charger whenever you are not using it, because even if it is in the socket, it will be consuming electricity, and the electricity will keep running into its circuit. So always remove your chargers, unplug the chargers from the socket. Next is the water use. Boil less water. Cover your pots while covering so that the heat doesn't escape, and the cooking will take faster. Avoid drinking bottled water. Instead of that, we can carry refillable water bottles, so that whenever it gets vacant, you can fill up the water from any available water source, drinking water source, and use that bottles again and again. Take a shower instead of a bath. When you consume water in a bucket or in a bathtub, there will be large amount of water consumed, so you can take a quick shower and your water will be saved. Even water saving nozzles are available nowadays to put in for the shower heads and for your taps, so water conserving features can be used in plumbing. Turn off the tap. So whenever not necessary, you can turn off the tap. Use the washing machine and dishwasher only when they are full. Maybe instead of washing smaller amount of clothes every day, you can collect your clothes for 1 or 2 days or 3 days and then wash them collectively. Use a tumble dryer only when absolutely necessary, or the best option is drying your clothes on a clothesline. So instead of using the dryer, in India already we are following drying clothes on a clothesline. So we are actually energy efficient in that process. The next step is waste management and the 3R principle of reduce, reuse, and recycle. Recycle as much as possible. Now here segregation is the key. If you segregate the waste at the point of generation, it will be easy for disposal of the products. So organic waste you can compost, those that you can recycle, you can give to a recycling agency. Lobby for appropriate recycling options in your community. So in our societies or in our communities around us, we can actually propagate why we should segregate the waste and why we should recycle the waste, or why we should compost the biodegradable products. Reuse your shopping bag. Instead of asking for a plastic carry bag, you can actually carry your cloth bag with you whenever you go for shopping or buying vegetables, and you can reuse it again and again. Choose products that come with little packaging or maybe no packaging. So buying local food products or local vegetables will actually ease out this. Instead of buying online vegetables which come in large packaging, you can actually go to your nearby sabzi mandi or your vegetable market to buy your vegetables and fruits. So they will come without packaging, and it will reduce on the packaging material. Buy intelligently, that is, or buy only what is necessary and whatever is required by you, and not hoard on things. Stop household burning of rubbish. So those who have individual properties or individual bungalows. They collect their bio waste, the garden trimmings or the leaves, dried leaves that are fine. They just burn it off, which actually releases large amount of CO2 and other greenhouse gases, which will again cause pollution and increase the greenhouse gases emission. So instead of burning the waste, you can actually compost it. If it is biodegradable. Now, these were the smaller strategies which can help in reducing the carbon footprint of any individual person. So here we come to the end of this video. I hope you have understood what the measures can be taken, small steps that can be taken by individuals to reduce down the carbon footprint. That is, in this case here we saw how to reduce down the emission of CO2 gas. That is one of the greenhouse gases which is contributing to global warming. The references used for this particular video are mentioned over here, and if anyone needs this PPT, you can contact me on rupaliborade.dypcoa@gmail.com. My address is written over here, or you can comment in the YouTube inbox with your email ID. I will mail you the PPT for your detailed reference. I hope you like the video, and everyone will follow the smaller strategies that I have specified to reduce down the carbon footprint. Thank you so much.